Alright, here we are with some Ridge Racer 2 on the PSP. I have never uploaded something like this before, but that's because this is going to tie into today's topic, which is Summer Games Fest predictions. Summer Games Fest predictions. You know what? I'm not even going to say predictions. I'm going to say wish list, because some of the stuff that I'm about to say, I don't think is going to happen. Especially the main topic of this video, which is racing games. But, yeah. Anyways, let's just get into it. So, you know, this is mainly a fighting game channel, right? Obviously, 98% of my videos are fighting games. But in terms of Summer Games Fest, I don't really think there's gonna be much speculation, and that's why I'm a little disappointed. I'm disappointed. The worst part about the new generation of fighting games, Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, MK1, the worst part about this generation so far is it feels like that's kind of just set in stone. And that's the way it is. I mean, even Arc System Works, they seem really set in stone with guiltygearstrive. They don't really seem like they're planning on moving on from that, at least for another year or two. And, you know, we're not, like, the last generation of fighting games, we got Street Fighter V, and then a few years later, we got Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. You know, not the greatest games, but it was just, you know, an age where we would get a Street Fighter game and a Marvel game. We would get a Mortal Kombat game and an Injustice game. And I just think those days are over. So that's why I'm kind of playing a racing game in this video, because I want to talk about something that I don't really talk about on this channel, as well as it doesn't really exist anymore, and that's racing games. And racing games do come out nowadays, but I'm just disgusted that they even have the guts to call them racing games, you know. If you've ever played the Crew 2 or the Crew Motorfest, quite possibly some of the worst racing games I've ever played, quote-unquote racing games. The new Need for Speed games, while they have definitely improved over how they used to be, they'll just never scratch the itch of what you're seeing right here. Ridge Racer, and I only started playing Ridge Racer this year, within the past year, but I always knew about their existence. But I'm more so, I mean, of course I would love if Ridge Racer came back, but I'm more so talking about the Sega racing games. You know, those racing games nowadays, they just don't have it. They just don't got it. You know the feeling of a Sega racing game, right? You start up, you got that music, right? Whatever Sega racing game it is, it's probably got that music, you know what I'm saying? And racing games nowadays do not have music at all. They are all taken from real life, and they're mostly pretty bad soundtracks. But you know what I'm talking about, those Sega racing soundtracks. You got that Blue Sky, the most beautiful looking game you've ever played, right? Just an old Sega racing game. Maybe not even Sega. Most racing games from around that time. But Sega really was the best. What happened to those racing games? You know, for Summer Games Fest, I don't think we're going to get anything fighting game related. Well, I don't want to say that. I do think we are going to get Street Fighter Season 2. I do believe that. And we're also going to get Dragon Ball Sparking Zero stuff. I mean, that's not really a fighting game, but I'm excited for that as well. And I'm excited for Street Fighter 6 Season 2. But, you know, none of it is really surprising. You know, none of it's going to make you jump out of your seat. Maybe if they announce a character in Street Fighter that's super exciting, then yeah, it'll be amazing. But it's all expected. It really is all expected. Something that would really make me happy is another Capcom fighting collection, but this time maybe include the 3D games. If they included like rival schools, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which will never happen, but even just rival schools would be really cool. Another Capcom fighting collection would be amazing. And Capcom did say they had multiple announcements. Now, if you don't know, yesterday Nintendo added a bunch of Mega Man games to Nintendo Online. Now, maybe I'm just reading too far into this, but why would you add a bunch of Mega Man games the day before Capcom says they have multiple announcements? By the way, they are sending out things to streamers advertising their announcements on the Game Awards. They are literally sending out things to YouTubers and streamers' houses advertising that they are going to announce things at the Game Awards. That seems like a big deal, and the last game that, or not the Game Awards, Summer Games Fest. I keep saying the Game Awards, but the reason why I'm saying the Game Awards is because last year at the Game Awards, Sega also sent out flyers to streamers advertising their announcements, and they announced a lot of stuff that was really crazy, right? But Capcom is doing that now. And they also said they have multiple announcements. So Street Fighter Season 2 is definitely one of the announcements. But what could the other thing be? Would it be a Mega Man game? Was Nintendo adding Mega Man games to Nintendo Switch Online a sign? Is it a Mega Man collection? I doubt it, because we have so many of those. My hopes is that it's another Capcom fighting collection, but this time it includes all the Marvel games. That's just a dream, though. More realistically, I would like a Capcom fighting collection with the 3D games that they missed. So that would be cool. But yeah, they do have multiple announcements, and I really don't think that it's going to be Monster Hunter, unless it is, but that would just be really weird, because Monster Hunter Wilds looked amazing, but it looked very early, and it looked like they could go a long time without showing any more of it while they just work on it on the background. That's what I felt like. But maybe not. But yeah, what I really want is a racing game with the music, the graphics, and the vibe. And I don't know if that's going to happen, and more importantly, I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know if we'll ever get... those games very much are a product of their time, and I just don't know if that will ever exist again in our lifetime. At the very least, I would love if there were some type of collection for some old classic racing games. You know, any Sega racing game. I don't really want a Sega All-Stars racing game. I'm not the biggest fan of those. They're not bad, but I'd rather just have, you know, blue skies, beautiful soundtrack, beautiful graphics, fun racing mechanics, and they have plenty of those from back in the day.
Looks like you got a good start.
You know, maybe just a Daytona port, whatever. I mean, Daytona isn't my favorite, but it's still a banger. Or a new Burnout game. Burnout, obviously, it doesn't have the vibes of a Sega racing game or even a Ridge Racer. It doesn't have those vibes. It doesn't have the music. But Burnout games are stupid fun. So that would be great. Because let's be honest, Gran Turismo, I actually do like Gran Turismo. I play Gran Turismo. But it's not a racing game. Like, it just doesn't have it. It just don't got it. Forza don't got it. The Crew don't got it. Need for Speed don't got it. These racing games, they just don't got it. And we need a racing game that has it. And in my opinion, I don't know if it's possible to ever make a racing game like that again. So at the very least, I hope we get some ports or a collection of some sort. There's so many racing games you could choose from back in the day. You know, before my time, but still, I still appreciate them and I love them a lot. Burnout was more my time. I more grew up with Burnout, but Burnout's still amazing. Whether it's Burnout, whether it's Sega Rally, whether it's Daytona, any racing game, whether it's Ridge Racer, whether it's Initial D, you know, just any of these would be super fun, because I don't sit here and play racing games all day. I mainly play fighting games when I play video games. But something that I always love is a good racing game, and it just sucks that they don't exist anymore. I don't... And another thing I want to say is I don't want it to be a karting game. I don't like Mario Kart. I don't like Crash Team Racing. I don't like the way that karting games feel. So yeah, that's my big hope for Summer Games Fest, just a racing game. And I'm sorry to say this, but I don't want it to be an indie game. There are a lot of good indie games that are racing games that kind of fit the criteria I'm looking for. But they're kind of like relatively simple, not a lot of content. I mean, just like those games were back then. But I don't know. I just really want a new Sega game, a new Sega racing game. And you know, we're getting Crazy Taxi, which I think they announced won't be at Summer Games Fest. But Crazy Taxi isn't really a racing game, and the soundtrack, while it is arguably the best soundtrack ever, if you consider the fact that it's using real music, it's still not a Sega soundtrack. You know, it's good. It's, like I said, probably the best soundtrack that uses real music ever in a game. But it's not a racing game. It's a good game, and it does have the vibes. But again, not a racing game, although I am happy about it coming back. But then again, I don't even think it really has the vibes anymore with the new graphics. Whatever, you know. Anyways, for Summer Games Fest, I'm hoping for a racing game. I'm hoping for a Capcom fighting game that's not Street Fighter 6, although we're going to get content for Street Fighter 6. We're going to get Season 2. It's going to be exciting, but I want something different. Sparking Zero is going to get a release date, I think. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Something from Sega, aka a racing game, or Burnout, you know, from EA, or even a Ridge Racer. I just want a classic racing game to come back. I want something from Capcom that hasn't been announced already, that's fighting game related, that's not for Street Fighter 6. And yeah, those are my main things. So, you know, like, sub, and let's see what happens today.